experience as a teacher. Renato is perhaps a little different. He was an extraordinary young man, and his death a year ago Labor Day was devastating for everyone who knew him here. And particularly, I think, as Brenda had mentioned, one of the most devastating things about it was that when I picture Renato still, I can only picture him smiling. And I think for those of you who knew him, I mean, it's almost impossible to picture him in any other way. So I think there was a profound sadness around the idea that Renato was such a bright light to everyone. And that perhaps there were ways that he was suffering that were unclear to those of us around him. So I guess I would just echo what Brenda was saying about the importance of community and supporting each other and doing everything you can. And I think that this remarkable scholarship and legacy to preserve this beautiful, amazing young man in this very profound and meaningful way is, it's the best thing that I've heard about in a very long time. And it makes my heart happy. So for those of you who didn't know Renato, I have a couple of memories. So there was the bright smile, always. And he would just, most people shuffle into class, especially LRW, it's not the most exciting subject always. You always have to write something. And Renato would always come in with that big beaming smile and big wave and sit in the back. And I try to be funny in my class sometimes, as my poor students know. And sometimes I'm a little funny, and then Renato would do the big beaming Renato smile. And then there's other times I'm not at all funny, and I'm trying, and it doesn't work. And like I'm referencing a movie from like 20 years ago, and no one knows what I'm talking about. But that was one of the things that I loved about Renato, is that if I was trying something funny that failed, he would just give me the most lovely little half smile of compassion. He would just be like, like that. Like it wasn't the big beaming, full body Renato smile that was so remarkable always, but it was this like compassionate, like, that didn't work at all, lady, but I like what you're trying to do up there, and I appreciate you for it. So the first thing that caught my eye about him, besides the smile, was his fundamental kindness and his compassion, even for his teacher. Soon after that, very soon after that, I learned that Renato was extraordinarily smart, so profoundly smart, and combined with that he persevered in every single task that we gave him. So, of course, both those qualities helped him do very well in his school years as a young kid, especially having moved here from Mexico when he was young, and then just to become the valedictorian of his high school class. What a remarkable achievement that is. His success in college was extraordinary. I was just showing these guys at the table. I dug up his resume that I had to be his reference, and it's unreal, the achievements. He was first in his class, summa cum laude from Butler, his home state, Indiana, a triple major. Of course, he was playing soccer. He was also an author of several scholarly articles already in undergrad. Oh, and if you didn't know this, he was president of the Philosophy Club. Which is actually, that makes sense, because he was a big thinker. But to succeed at legal writing, you have to be really smart, but like any other skill, you have to put the time in, and you have to persevere. And some of it is really a grind, as all of you know who have taken legal writing. Every memo assignment, every case list, every outline, even that in-class memo assignment that we did when you were all tired from handing in your big long memo 3, every single one of those that I went back and looked at, I remember he did well. He did extraordinarily well on all of those. And I have one other little example that you one else won't believe. Back in the old days, when we were trying to figure out ways to teach the Blue Book to people, we used to make one else take a Blue Book citation test at the end of their first semester of law school, which I know, right? So things have gotten better, and you're welcome. But we have done away with that little rite of passage. But Renato hated the Blue Book, I remember. I mean, very few love it, and those that do whisper it to me and privately. But Renato didn't love the Blue Book, and he got a perfect score on that Blue Book citation test. And there is nothing about that crazy Blue Book that is intuitive. That is just hard work. That is just putting in the time and slogging through. And he did that about every single thing. Renato had a quality that I always think about as coachability that is just, as a teacher, I love this, right? He just soaked up everything. He wanted to be better. He wanted to hone his skills. he wanted to be the best advocate that he could be, and he was just like, what do you got? Teach me. And I could just picture any soccer coach that he ever had his entire life just being like, oh, I got this kid on my team. Because if you told him something, he did it. And he would do it better and better and be like, oh, I'll work on that next time. It was remarkable. So one time when we were talking about a draft memo in my office, we were talking about topic sentences, and Renato had this like, oh, I was like, see, there should always be a topic sentence, no matter which little section or correct. And he was like, oh, I see, oh, I get it. And there was this big like bright light bulb, and we were so happy, and we high-fived. That was the end of LRW. In the spring, he finally got to get in the ring and advocate. He was so excited, although I don't think the topic was something he was that excited about. It was copyright, origami. It was a little, again, maybe not what he was dreaming of. He did such a good job, you guys. He dove into that record and dug out facts that other people never thought about to support his case. He crafted a beautiful argument. His final brief was stellar and earned him an honors grade in my class, and his oral argument was fantastic. It was a Monday night in one of those giant rooms, 105, and he showed up in his suit and smiling, of course, nervous but smiling. And he had this look of determination. And he stood up at the podium, and he was poised and prepared. He knew his stuff cold. He was respectful, as he always was, but when the judge pushed, he pushed back in a good way, in a thoughtful way. But what struck me, as I know you can all imagine who knew him, is that along with everything he knew, he brought just this quality of credibility up there to the podium, because he just had that integrity that shined through as bright as his smile. Of like, that's someone you can trust, you know? That's someone that if he says it, that's right. You can listen to him and trust him. And what a great quality that was. And so, a few months before he died, I got a final email from Renato, who stayed in touch, because he was like that. And it was June of that summer that he had at Hurley. He said he just wanted to give me a little shout out for helping him with his legal writing, just out of the blue. He said Hurley had all of them do a little legal writing exercise so they could assess their writing. He said he got really good reviews. He said, I deserve some of the credit they gave him because, quote, the partner who read my memo sang me a lot of praises for my fervent use of topic sentences. So that one short email that I, of course, treasure now illustrates two more of Renato's wonderful qualities that anyone who knew him can think of quite quickly. His sense of humor and his graciousness towards everyone, all the time. So all of these remarkable qualities came together in this uniquely talented and truly lovely young man. And despite all of the hard work he did in my class and everywhere else, he was so involved in so many activities here that he loved and that meant so much to him. And in particular, as a member of La Raza and someone who also worked on the La Raza Journal, this was really an organization and a group that meant so much that he really felt like he was home here and that supported him in all his endeavors, as I know it has for so many students that I have had for the last 2 decades. And so the fact that this organization, all of you great people have worked so hard to make this come together to honor his legacy is just a wonderful gift to everyone who knew him, to the school, to your organization, and to all the students who are going to benefit from this scholarship. He was a joy to teach, and I will always feel grateful that I got to have Renato in my classroom and watch him shine. He really sincerely blessed every single person who knew him in this building, even those who didn't know him that well. Grieved as we all did. His death was a terrible loss, and we were heartbroken. So there's a hole and a gaping hole that will never be entirely healed that Renato leaves behind, but this scholarship is a tremendous step towards continuing on so that people years from now who don't necessarily remember Renato as a classmate will understand what a remarkable bright light he was and how supported he was by this particular group of students. So kudos to all of you who have put this together. It means a lot to me and everyone who knew and loved Renato. And I'm delighted to continue to support it as the years go on, and as people graduate, I'll always be happy to remind people about Renato and to be part of this lovely scholarship opportunity. So thank you, and congrats to all the people who worked so hard on it, and of course to this year's recipients.